Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're talking about Impendium Volume 2, and this is published by Dragon Egg Games.
All right, this is the sequel to Nova Lux, which we talked about earlier. And if you remember that, or you're familiar with that game, what's happening in that game is basically entropy has occurred. You know, all these stars are burning out and dying, and we are trying to find our last, residents, and we're trying to save as many of these species and factions as possible from all over the galaxy. But now, in Volume 2, in Impendium, we have found our haven, and we're actually building up these stars now and these galaxies from scratch. We're building them. But you know what? Not everybody's a big fan of that.
No.
The harbingers of the void, who are the ones that were maybe big proponents of the stars dying off, they want to keep them dying off, so they're going to attack us once we get to a certain point. So, like it says, creation comes with a cost.
It's basically like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy meets Cthulhu.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, let me show you what it looks like on the table. All right, like we talked about earlier, we're kind of now reconstructing the universe. We are now building these galaxies back up. So we start the game by placing planets out there, or stars out there, based off of the number of players. So we're going to place some stuff like that out there. And we get a chance to put our arcs on there as well, on some of these different galaxies or stars. And on top of that, we have some colonies that we're able to place right out of the gate. So we kind of take turns. Maybe they go there. Maybe we do something like that. Whatever it is. But anyways, we're going to start with some colonies out there. Now, the more colonies you have out there, that's going to be kind of your income. You're going to get some resources based off of that. So you're going to kind of get a multiplier based off of the resources at the top of the cards, multiplied by how many colonies you have on that card, and that also includes your arc as well. So in this case right here for that card, because we have 2 of our green things plus our arc there, we are going to get 3 reds, which is the life forms, and we are going to get 6 of the hydrogen on our resource chart, which is over here. We're going to mark that at the beginning of our turn. We're going to get that income. So we can mark that up to 9. We get 3 of those as well. After we have our resources, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our actions on the board. All right, so we can move her around. We have our arcs. You can spend hydrogen to move around the board. It takes 2 hydrogen to move off of a card, and then 1 hydrogen to move onto a card. You actually get a discount if you have the same color that you're matching. So we would have gotten there. We only would have paid 1 there because we are playing as the green player. But same thing with this purple player here. It would be 1, 2, and then 3 to get onto that card. Whereas because of our matching color, it would have been a slight discount. The next thing you can do is you can build a colony. What you can do is pay the resources at the bottom of these cards in order to build more other colonies. However, you have a restriction. You can only have 3 colonies out on the board for every one of the factions that you have. And we start the game with 1 faction out there, which means we're going to have to get some more factions in order to be able to get more colonies out there. You can't always use the colonies that are already out there and just kind of remove them and replace them. But in this case, I think it might be more efficient to just try to get another faction so we can get more things out there, gather more resources. All right, so over here is how we're going to get more of those factions. First of all, we've got our victory point chart over there. You can track all the victory points there, but then also underneath there is going to be 4 different factions at a time. And they're kind of all associated with one of our types of resources. So for instance, over here we have water. In order to achieve this card right here, we're going to need to pay 14 water, which is the maximum that you can hold. However, you do kind of get a discount based off of things that you produce on the board. So you might maybe end up paying 13 or 12 or whatever the case is. But in order to get more factions, you need to pay 14 of the resource above it. It doesn't matter what's on the card itself, it just matters what's above it. So for this one here, if we paid 14 of those artifacts, we'd be able to get this card, put it above our board. We would need to get the benefit of that faction, as well as now we've unlocked 3 more of our colonies that we can place on the board. The factions can do a number of things, such as add more resources to your board. You can let you substitute things, like that one lets you substitute in oxygen for any other resources. It can give you some discounts, or let you exchange things, or even teleport. So there's all kinds of different effects that you can get from these factions. Now, you only have 3 of them, but what you can do is once you have 3 and you want to get a 4th one, you can just choose to discard 1. Now, the reason you might want to do that is because there are these Galactic diplomacy cards over here that are really, really strong. So basically what these do, every time you get a faction, you're going to draw 3 of these cards. You're going to look at them and choose 2 of them. They're going to do all kinds of things. This one says, for instance, take an opponent's hand of Galactic Diplomacy cards and pick up to 2 of them to swap with your own. So that kind of lets you kind of customize your hand a little bit. This one says you can pay 5 of those oxygens in order to play this card down as a planet and get 5 points at the end of the game. That's going to be really, really strong. This one here says unstable wormhole. Teleport anywhere in the universe and gain 7 of that hydrogen. So that's all different benefits you can get from those galactic diplomacies, and you get those when you purchase a faction. So we have some more planets underneath here as well. We're going to be adding those to our universe that we already have going on here. We do just like before. We can add in at the bottom here all those different resources in order to place one of our colonies. This basically amounts to constructing that planet. Once the left side is completely filled up, let's say someone else does that one, and we come back on a future turn, and we do that, this star is going to be built into our universe. And we're going to get some victory points based off of how much we contributed. So in this case, green would get 2, purple would get 1, because how much they did there. Now, you can leave those on there too, which is going to give you more resources during your resource phase. However, now I need to point out that we've been, basically going through the entropy. The whole universe has been collapsing, and now we're kind of fighting against entropy, and we are building a galaxy. So, the universe is not happy with us. We've got these big harbingers of the void that are going to come out, and they're going to mess with stuff. All right, so this guy, he basically says, remove a colony of the player with the most colonies on yellow stars of the player's choosing, and a tie remove a colony from all who tie. We actually only have green out here right now just because of my weird example, but he's going to mess some stuff up here. But what we've got here is an opportunity to get more points. So, as a turn, we can, or as an action, use one of those Federation actions, we can place on here, spending those resources as well. Once this car is completely full, we have defeated that Harbinger. We're going to get victory points based off of the top here. This one says 2 victory points. Plus, you're going to get a victory point for everyone that you've added on there as well. So you might end up with, let's say, 4 or 5 victory points for each one of those cards that you're able to battle and defeat. So once that's gone, now we've got another situation that might pop up. That happens if we ever have 2 of the same color for those Harbingers. If we ever have 3 of the same colors touching, we've now created a whole galaxy, a galaxy of green. Now, when that happens, what you do is you become the ruler of a galaxy. You basically add up whoever has the most colonies in that galaxy. So, for instance, right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 green, and 2 purple. So green would become the ruler of the galaxy and gets a cool card. This one says, at the beginning of each round, receive 3 victory points and an oxygen. So you actually get, points as your income phase at the beginning of each round. So that's really all there is to the game. It's going to be the race so we get to 25 points. Whoever gets to 25 points first is going to be the winner. Those points are going to come from building these stars as a result of Federation actions, fighting off the Harbingers, also a Federation action, by getting those Galactic Diplomacy cards and building some of those at victory points. And then also, once you have Galaxy, becoming the ruler of a galaxy can get you a lot of points every turn as well. However, that can change. If someone else gets more colonies in that area than you, they're going to take over and become the ruler of the galaxy. Whenever 2 players have their arcs in the same spot like we have there, you do get a chance to battle each other or trade resources with each other as well. That's similar to the predecessor of this game, Nova Lux. There are a couple of things that are related to this game, which I think was a really nice tie-ins between the two. But basically what's going to happen is, once one player gets to 25 points, the game is going to end. They're declared the winner. Now, there are a lot of different variants in this game. There's variants where there's a cooperative mode. There's actually ways that you can involve Nova Lux into this game. And there's even a Nova Lux Legacy game where you basically play a game of Nova Lux followed by Impendium, which I recommend. That was a lot of fun. There's even a little loyalty mini-expansion and a turmoil mini-expansion as well. So there's no shortage of gameplay and modifications to be done to this game.
All right, so in Nova Lux, the artwork was a little grotesque for my liking.
For you.
For my liking. Not saying that that's obviously it was really well done because it grossed me out that much. And I felt like with Impendium, they are still able to have that same just color palettes and all of that. It was spacey, weird, but not grotesque. So I actually enjoyed the artwork a lot more in this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In both Nova Lux and in Impendium, they had to be extremely creative and come up with really plausible ideas of what these species that came from other world, other universes might have looked like. I thought they did a great job of that. but they also get some weird stuff.
Yes.
I love how, you're basically building this production. In the previous game, your resources were all about more or less trading and turning things into things. This is much more a production engine building situation. So, as you build these colonies, then you get to harvest those goods on that planet as well. So, or on the star. I always say those wrong. But the point is, it made a lot of sense to me how now that they've arrived at this place, now they get to produce goods. They get to plant plants. They get to, have life forms grow, as opposed to having to kind of trade and barter and create and do all the things they had to do in Nova Lux. So I liked how that worked out in this game as far as the resources.
The Galactic diplomacy cards.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Those, I feel like that's where this game happens. Trying to get those different factions so you can get those cards, so you can play those big pointers, so you can mess with the board, so you can move around. Like, I felt like that's where you were going to soar in this game, was trying to get those factions. So you can try to get those cards, so you can try to just move above and be better than everybody.
Which you did quite well. But what I liked was the harbingers of the void that would come out. I thought that's it made a lot of sense to me as you kind of start creating and growing these galaxies as they're coming together. They're coming in and wrecking the place, right? And you had to go and defeat them for some points. Not a ton of points, but you had to. And they were wrecking stuff. But where the points really jumped in for me, other than like you said, those diplomacy cards or whatever, was once you build a galaxy and you get to be the ruler of that galaxy.
Yeah.
Those producing points during your income phase, that was huge. But you had to fight through these harbingers to get to that point, which I really, really enjoyed. That made a lot of sense to me. The whole arc and the theming and the storyline of this game which made a lot of sense to me. I thought it was really interesting and made for, I would read that book. You know what I mean? Between Nova Lux going into Impendium.
I would not read that graphic novel.
Right, visually, I get that for you. But the book, for sure. Yeah, you guys, I thought this was a really interesting game. It's just, the more players you add on, the more chaotic it got. But at the same time...
there's different versions, too.
Right, there's just a ton of different variability in this game. There's just so many different little miniature expansions they added on. There's a whole artificial intelligence that comes out, that you can play with, that does things on their own and gets victory points all on their own, which I thought was really creative. So just the replayability of this game was felt like virtually endless. You can even, like I mentioned earlier, combine it with Nova Lux and play that with the components half and half, or even play a game of Nova Lux that flowed into this. So, man, I just thought that was really creative. I highly suggest checking this out on Kickstarter if you haven't already.
It was definitely a sequel that made sense. Like, it made sense with the story that it was building in the first game to have it end with the story that they were building in the second game. It definitely, you could see how that would be. It wasn't like they just pulled it out of anywhere. It was almost like it was pre-planned to be that way, because it connected so well of that story arc that they had between the two games. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to us so you can see our videos as they come out. You can also find us in all the places. On Facebook, we're Ryan Bethany Board Game Reviews. On Twitter, we're Ryan Bethany 1. And on Instagram, we are Ryan and Bethany.
All right, you guys, thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.